He should have said all rise for the Deputy Lord Mayor, but I'm not getting any illusions of grandeur. Please be seated, everyone. Thank you. So, welcome to today's member forum meeting. Firstly, of course, safety information. So, I'd like to draw your attention to emergency evacuation procedure. Please exit the building from the nearest exit and congregate by the cathedral when instructed to do so. Now, I think we all know the rules by now, so I think we can jump straight into business. Firstly, though, I'd like to give councillors who have submitted statements the opportunity to present their statements first. So, Councillor Self, would you like to present your statement to the members?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. If you're coming to this place to intimidate, bully and harass trans people, there may be consequences. We cannot have a situation of total exclusion like some people seem to want. We cannot have people making up the law to suit their own beliefs. The recent Leonardo and Dr. Beth Upton cases have shown conclusively that trans people have rights in the workplace and can use facilities appropriate to their gender. You know something? Martin Parr took a photo of me in 2019 at Bristol Pride. I was holding a placard that said, trans. Here in 1969, here in 2019, here always. Rest in peace, Martin Parr. Trans women are women, and they are here to stay.
Thank you, Councillor Saab. And Councillor Makari, you have a statement on condemning racist remarks against the Somali community.
Yes, thank you, my Lord Mayor. I strongly condemn President Trump's racist and Islamophobic remark targeting Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and the Somali community. Such words are not only harmful, they are dangerous. They are harmful stereotype and fueling xenophobia. The Somali community, like all communities, deserve respect, dignity, and equality. Their contribution to America society are invaluable, and their voice matter. I reject any attempt to dehumanize and marginalize them or any immigrant community. I urge all Americans to speak out against hate speech and stand united with our Somali and Muslim brothers and sisters. Together we can build a more inclusive, compassionate society. I also want to express my unwavering support to the Somali community here in Bristol and across the UK. Your strength and resilience are testament to the power of diversity and inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Makari. And finally, Councillor Fraser, you have a statement on Whitewood Road Path.
Firstly, thank you, Councillor Self and Councillor Makari, for your powerful statements. This is going to feel relatively prosaic in comparison, talking about a local alleyway, but I think it's representative of something that lots of us have right across our communities, where we've got issues with the maintenance of public rights-of-way, often caused by neighbouring landowners letting their plots go in neglect. And in the case here of the plot with the Strawn and Henshaw building, which lots of you know, many of you remember the horrific fire that took place there in 2018 and 2019 over the new year that damaged so many businesses in the area and caused so much hardship. To be in a situation again with the landowner of the same plot, be allowing little barbed wire to be hanging over a path which children use to cycle, which more and more people are walking on as retail has returned to the Strawn and Henshaw building, is really concerning. So I urge the Public Rights of Way team, who work incredibly hard, to take enforcement action against this, and I hope that this statement helps to shame the landlord into taking action. Thank you.
It may be prosaic, but you still got a round of applause. Well done, Councillor Fraser. So let's move on to the questions now. So starting with green question number 1 from Councillor Freeman. And this is on the ability to charge electric vehicles. Councillor Freeman, you've got one supplementary to Councillor Plowden.
Thank you, yeah, and thanks for your answer, Martin. I see that the gully pilot, sorry, not Martin, Ed, what am I? I see the gully pilot is opening the applications for the gully pilot opening in mid-December, which one of my residents in particular will be very pleased about, because I know it's run a bit behind schedule. I did want to ask about the College Street car park chargers, which have been out of commission for about at least a year, and we just wondered whether there were any plans to sort that out.
That's one I'm going to have to take back and get back to you. Sorry, I don't know anything about it. I do know that there's a bit of a review of all the existing charging points going on, and we're also having to review the financial model because a lot has changed since the business case was put in before the pandemic and before all the inflation on fuel costs.
Thank you. Labour question 1 on the EBLN emergency services delay from Councillor Breckles. You've got 2 supplementaries for Councillor Plowden, please.
Okay, thank you. Let me sort of quote. Thank you for your answer, but there is one bit that I haven't had an answer from as yet. Let me quote from the feedback I had regarding impact of East Bristol livable neighbourhoods from Avon Fire and Rescue, and I'm happy to forward this to you afterwards. In their feedback summary, due to location of planters, some properties can only be accessed via limited routes, multiple roads being blocked in one way, rerouting adding extra time, padlock issues such as wrong passcode, padlock broken and damaged bollards, space between planters is unnecessarily narrow, leaving just inches on each side for appliances or a fire truck. Consideration for the fire truck could be damaged, especially at night when visibility is reduced. Is there really a need for 2 bollards within close proximity to each other? And the consequences, about half the cases were held up. 30th of May, one case was delayed by 3 minutes, another, third crew attended on location on foot, appliances unable to reach the scene. 17th of May, yet slowly responding drastically for one truck, not for the other. Slowed response on the 20th of May, and so we go on. 29th of July.
Councillor Breckles, if you couldn't go on too much longer, and get your question, please.
The question I have is, you've answered will you commit, you haven't answered the last question I had, which is, will you commit to removing those parts of the EBLN that have or would cause delays to our emergency services, and if not, why not? Because what we need to know is, are lives more important than anti-car dogma? Thank you.
The short answer is we're going through all of them on a case-by-case approach and reviewing them. Some of them we intend to change from being bollards and planters to camera enforced instead. Once we've done that, if we were to commit to removing every single one of these, I think it would not be appropriate, because that will open up new routes. So we need to actually be quite smart about this, tackle the ones that really are making a difference, and make sure that we're updating the fire service and their navigation software with the required routes so that they don't get blocked anymore.
So just to quickly come back on that, the camera enforcement will exempt emergency vehicles.
Say that again?
The camera enforcement will exempt emergency vehicles, so for fire engine...
It does.
Okay, Lib Dem question 1 on winter pressures immunisations from Councillor Clark. You've got 1 supplementary to Councillor Francis, who doesn't appear to be here. So if you'd like to ask your supplementary question, and we can record it and get a response to you in due.
Ask it to Heather, or who do I ask it to the ether? I'll ask it to the chamber. Bristol is likely to experience a number of critical incident alerts in hospitals with flu season upon us. What is adult social care going to do to protect our vulnerable adults and residents? Thank you. And will I get a written response?
Thank you very much for that supplementary, Councillor Clark. We'll make sure that you get a written response to that supplementary. Thank you. So let's move on to Conservative question 1, sale of Bottleyard Studios from Councillor Hucker, and that's to Councillor Classic. 2 supplementaries, Councillor Hucker.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and yes, thank you for the response. I only have 1 supplementary, Councillor Classic. Could I see the management accounts for the studios? Could that be arranged, please?
I can ask, as you're a councillor, obviously strategy and resources members will see that when we're looking at the Bottleyard Studios, but it will be part of an exempt session. Could also converse with your party
member on the committee for that information, but I will ask if that is available, but it will be exempt information and not for public domain.
Understood. Thank you very much.
Okay, green question 2, road marking in St George Central. That's from Councillor Finch. One supplementary for Councillor Plowden.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the response. It was really clear, so no supplementary needed. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So we move on to Labour question 2, Baltic Wharf replacement trees from Councillor Renard. One supplementary to Councillor Fodor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. I think just firstly, the Baltic Wharf decision was actually originally led by Councillor Paul Smith. And there's just a few of the answers that we've had today where there are factual inaccuracies. So I just ask that greater care is taken when responding to these. In future, we'll be happy to write to you to let you know which ones we're particularly concerned about. Ongoing for the next few years isn't very specific, obviously aware of the 38 sites that have been identified. So please, could I have in writing, because you won't be able to answer it today, the phasing of the sites and seeking of area committee approval for the rest. So when is it you intend to bring forward the remaining proposed replacement trees? Could we have that so we've got a plan that we can hold the administration to account over? Thank you.
The method of replacing trees is in the hands of area committees. They get the information from officers. If you have any suggestions for the trees that are replaced by the project you were supporting, then they can be used by the area committees. They will make the decisions as soon as they find those locations, and then the planting will take place in the planting season. But we can't predict exactly where all those places will be, because they have to be found and agreed by the area committees, as you know.
Thank you. Next is Lib Dem question 2 on community cohesion from Councillor Classic. One supplementary for Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, and thank you very much for a very detailed response. I just wanted to ask, could you go into any more detail about the actions arising from the community cohesion report, either what we're sort of doing now or what's coming down the pipeline?
Good afternoon, Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank my colleague for her question. I can tell her one of the things that is referred to in the last paragraph of the answer, that a steering group has been set up of community leaders that is chaired by the leader, attended by the deputy leader and myself, representatives from the police and community groups. There is also a wider community group that is convened by the head of communities and myself. Also, I've been holding sectoral conversations with different groups around the city, sport, higher education, further education, the NHS and Business West, and culture, schools and young people are forthcoming. And we've also just started having geographical conversations in a safe place. The first one was last week with the deputy leader and myself in Lockleys, and others are programmed for Harcliffe, Eastern, Lawrence Western and other parts of the city too.
Thank you very much. Conservative question 2 on Bristol Blue Glass. That's from Councillor Eddy. 2 supplementaries to Councillor Brown.
Can I thank Councillor Brown for his 2 very helpful replies? It does seem that his officers working with him are actually seeking to assist Bristol Blue Glass, of course, so that's very good. I'm sure he's aware. We face a cliff edge in February, and of course we have the Christmas period, which is notoriously difficult to get decisions made over. Will he please ensure there's proper coverage of that, please?
Thank you, Councillor Eddy. Yes, my understanding is that obviously it's a very busy time in retail, as well as for officers and as well as with the Christmas break as well. But my understanding is that the officers are continuing to liaise and forward opportunities onto Bristol Blue Glass and holding open those lines of discussion, and that Bristol Blue Glass themselves have said that they will pick some of the leads up again in January. I will certainly be keeping an eye on it at that point.
Okay, let's move on to green question 3, decarbonising the council. That's from Councillor Gemfrey. 1 supplementary to Councillor Fodor, please.
Yes, thank you. My follow-up question is about if you could maybe give a bit more detail about how the buildings are being decarbonised, to put it in like layman's terms, because you think a building is built, how can it be decarbonised? Could you explain that a bit more? It sounds like there is some great work already being done, but I know this is something a lot of people feel very passionately about. Thank you.
Sure, thanks very much. Yeah, we have a plan for scheduling work on the top 30 largest carbon-using buildings and facilities of the council, plus other plans more opportunistic for smaller sites. The smaller sites, in short, are getting support from the £2 million that has been raised by the Community Mutual Investment. The larger sites were dependent to some extent on the public sector decarbonisation fund. Sadly, that is no longer available, so we're reviewing what can be done with the available capital. And it could include heating, it could include lighting, energy saving, draft proofing, addition of solar panels. That's being considered for sites like some of the schools and M-Shed. This site, this building we're in, is a large listed building. We're hoping the heat network will pass through College Green and assist with low carbon heat for both the City Hall and the library. And it may be available to the cathedral at the same time once it's available. So each solution has to match the needs of the building for heating, lighting, ventilation, and so on. But it could be familiar things such as solar panels, heat pumps, insulation, as appropriate. I hope that's helpful, but each one will be brought forward. The very largest carbon-using site of the council, in fact, is the crematorium at Camford, and that is a major project which we're discussing with our City Leap joint venture to see if they can support it with their capital and have a method by which we can pay them back as it gets used for the lower carbon and less polluting heating rather than gas burning, which is currently used. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you.
Labour question 3 on room hire fees from Councillor Alexander. 1 supplementary for Councillor Mack.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Up to now, we've been told that room hire rates were set by the contractor. This answer seems to kind of fudge that slightly. Could you make it clear to everyone now, please, who has been setting those exorbitant rates, which have caused a lot of upset, and who from now on will be setting those room rates?
Testing. Good. New system. Great. As I understand it, so, and I think it is worth being clear that this whole new contract about venue hire and catering was all instigated, I think, long enough ago that it was before our time, but has been processed through that for the last couple of years. As I understand it, we work with them to make best value of our incredibly profitable rooms. Like, it is, I think it's great that we are using this building to, where possible, make money for our council budget. So we would work with them on the level that we can charge, and we are charging more for corporate events, and we are getting more and more corporate events despite charging quite a lot for them. So my understanding is that is a negotiation, a recommendation from them, and an agreement by us in terms of how that's set. So they would know they would know its worth, and we would agree to that. Crucially, though, when we are talking about community uses, which I would say is a completely different category to that, the maximum that we're able to make with those rooms, that is then a negotiation with the leader's office to decide what we're going to charge when it's a community use. Myself, Tony, combination, yeah.
Okay.
For community bookings specifically.
Lib Dem question 3 on the Callington Road link from Councillor Clark. 1 supplementary for Councillor Plowden, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank you very much for the response, Ed. What I take from it is that you're in favour of building more roads and splitting up communities. Am I correct in this assumption?
No. I think we need to look at all the options of how we use this corridor. It's also a corridor in 2 pieces, so we may need to look at that. I can't give you a categorical assurance because this project is being led by WECA, as you know. What I can say to you is that I have a lot of sympathy with what you're doing. I think you're doing a great job of standing up for your residents who are very anxious about this. It's very firmly in my mind that we need to consider your concerns and your residents' concerns, and that we will make sure, and I think I've been good to my word, that you're briefed before anything goes out into the public domain on what the current thinking and the current plans are. But we do need to zoom out and look at the whole picture if we're going to make sure that the Bristol to Bath corridor, which is really crucial to the productivity and the growth and prosperity of our region, is going to work to an optimum way so people can get along it.
Conservative question 3 on the EBLN from Councillor Glanders. 2 supplementaries to Councillor Plowden, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. And thank you, Ed. And what answers? Do you know, for a moment I thought Marvin Rees was back in the chamber when I saw these answers. Very prickly, very prickly. I thought you might be talking about how you balance the conflicts between sort of stop pollution and ease congestion with the needs of various groups. But no, my goodness me. I'm going to have to nickname you Marvin, but there we go. Anyhow, let me try a different supplementary, hopefully non-contentious. When Park Street is closed, will those who have a blue badge still be able to access it through the bus gates?
I think that's a little bit of a departure as a supplementary question from where we started.
I thought it might be safer.
Because I can see there's a sort of segue here about bus gates and blue badges. As you may know, we are currently working on exemptions for that bus gate for a group of residents that may otherwise be forced into the CAS, and looking at making exemptions for them if they have non-compliant cars. As you also know, we have given blue badge exemptions to people in East Bristol. As things stand, 29 disabled class vehicles and 97 blue badge holders has taken up that offer. And in fact, the offers we put in place, which weren't in place when we inherited this scheme, now 462 people are benefiting from those exemptions. It's something we have to be very, very careful about. Not least is a very common thing is when someone goes through bus gate, they say, well, the car in front of me did. And so it makes it harder to enforce. It's an extra burden on the team who then enforce that. But we are, I think it's on the forward plan. If not, I'll get it on there as soon as possible, that we will be looking citywide at how we deal with exemptions to bus gates. And obviously, blue badge holders, given all the work we've done to date, is going to be very much in the mix for that consideration. And I think the word when is obviously Park Street is a proposal at the moment. It's got to go through statutory consultation and various other processes, and so we'll see. I think it's still an if at the moment.
Thank you. And my second supplementary is simply to wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, John, and especially given the slight prickly answer. I really appreciate that, and I'd like to return the compliment.
Thank you very much. So next we have Green Question 4 on zebra crossings from Councillor Wilcox, 2 supplementaries for Councillor Plowden.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Plowden, for your response. I'm interested in whether there will be more trials happening both north and south of the river, please.
I would have liked to have rolled out more trials. I think I took advice from officers that this is something we need to handle very, very carefully, and we need to learn from our own experience as well as the experience of other cities before we rush into putting them in a lot of places. I personally had advocated for some to go in a place where there's a lot of dispersed crashes along the road with a lot of side roads, but actually that it's exactly because of that high level of crashes that we're nervous and we want to learn first. So the answer is yes, we will be rolling more out, but I think we need to do that absolutely aware of what the potential pitfalls are and making sure no one gets hurt because of them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't believe Councillor Clark is here, so we'll move on to Lib Dem question 4, the visitor levy. That's from Councillor Brown to Councillor Mack, and 1 supplementary, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I've not got any supplementary as such, other than to say that I will continue to discuss this with both yourself and the leader as we go forward to ensure that this is getting picked up with the West of England Combined Authority and Mayor Godwin, and that Bristol does get its fair share in due course.
Thank you very much. So next is Conservative question 4, street waste bins. Councillor Weston, you've got 1 supplementary to Councillor Fodor, please.
Thank you very much, my Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank God that's not a cumbersome title. I realise this is somewhat prosaic, very local, and it's also a situation that's been inherited by you. But so far, my ward is over 5 bins down. I think there's 6 just been removed, public bins, and what they are is normally by bus stops. And the litter doesn't vanish. It just gets dropped in the concrete hole where the bin used to be, and then we have to litter pick it once it's blown around. And there are more that have been removed from South Bin. I'm sure I'm not unique in this. I realise this is the previous administration removed them. Does this current administration have any plans to put them back when it comes to things like modernising or when we're reinvesting in those bus stops?
Yeah. Thanks, Councillor Weston. Yes, of course, we'd love to be able to replace them. Each one has to be not just funded as a capital project, but there has to be funding to empty it for the year. So if it was lost before the contract was cut, we would have to find the money to put in to provide that service. We've agreed to, if you can name these sites, I will make sure they're all looked at. It is difficult. I mean, the final mayor of the city said take your litter home, but I know it's not always realistic, and we want to be able to provide a better cleansing service. And we know from our consultations people want litter to be dealt with, so we're trying to find ways to replace bins, and we will look at those sites. Okay.
Councillor Crawford, are you ready to ask your supplementary?
I
Just
am.
in
Perfect
time.
timing.
So that's the electrification of council fleet, and you've got one supplementary for Councillor Fodor.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Martin, for this. Yeah, my question is basically, obviously this work should have been kind of being undertaken for many years now. So I was just wondering kind of what's taking so long?
Sure, yes. Well, we are putting in place an EV strategy, both for the public and one for the council itself. We have to be opportunistic, so we're bidding when funding is available. And as we say, we bid for about £1 million so that 5 different services could have charging in their depots. The tricky thing is that funding for vehicles has to be matched by charging facilities, and they have to be in sync. You can't have spend the money years ahead of charging facilities, years ahead of having the vehicles, because money's scarce. So we have to line up when the vehicles can be made available, where there's a depot that can be upgraded, and put that charging in. And it's happening in step across each facility, each service, and we're looking at each of those fleets to see what's appropriate. And the good news is we have more electric vehicles now, and Bristol Waste is now trialling electric refuse collection and street sweeping vehicles as well, because we know we want to make progress with those as soon as we can get the depots, the vehicles, and the charging. So it is opportunistic, as I said, but we're trying to be strategic about it and make sure it's done in the best way to get the best outcomes as soon as possible. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you very much. I don't believe Councillor Tate is here, so we'll move to Lib Dem question 5 on the local plan. That's from Councillor Williams to Councillor Brown. One supplementary, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'd like to thank my colleague for his answer. Of course, the local plan was submitted to inspectors before a lot of us were actually elected to the council. So it's quite a long, drawn-out process. I just wondered whether he could update us when he anticipates that we will have a local plan that can be adopted.
Thank you. Yes, this is the how long is a piece of string question. And when I took on the role of chair last year, my expectation was that we would get hearings out the way last summer, and we'd be on the road to adoption by spring of this year. And that has slipped somewhat because the hearings didn't happen until spring this year. The modifications that I referred to in the answers to the question will be submitted this week to the inspectors. Assuming they accept those, they then go to a 6-week, they're advertised for 6 weeks in the new year, and then hopefully we'll get to a situation where the local plan can come to economy and scales and then to full council for adoption in the first half of next year, I'm going to say, but hopefully spring.
Conservative question 5 on Royal Mail letterboxes. That's on Councillor West and Councillor Mack. One supplementary, please.
Thank you very much, my Deputy Lord Mayor. Again, a highly prosaic local one, but I think it's one that affects all of us. And so what I'm trying to get at here is we probably all in our wards had letterboxes that have been removed. Normally because someone's crashed into them, and then Royal Mail decide not to do them. And when we as individual councillors write to the Royal Mail, it's a case of, oh, well, I'm afraid there's another one a mile that way, and so we're not going to replace it. I'm wondering actually, from the leader's office, whether they might contact us as councillors, which ones have we lost in our wards, and we collectively en masse go to Royal Mail and say, these are missing, will you replace them? And I hope that the joined up approach might elicit a response. I just wonder whether the leader's office might help do that approach.
Sounds to me like cars and dangerous driving are the real problem here. Just, you know.
Try that. If you want to tell people that they can't post a letter, you put that in the leaf.
No, that's not the thing that I was saying was the issue of it. I think, yes, I will say now, if people would like to contact me, and if there is a collection of postboxes and issue across the city, then I'm sure that we'll be able to put that together in a letter. So if I make this offer to the majority of councillors who are in the room right now, yes, get in contact with the leader's office and we'll put that together.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Green question 6, road safety, Hudsville Road. Councillor Finch to Councillor Plowden. 1 supplementary, please.
Hello, thank you very much, Councillor Plowden, for that answer. Yes, I guess all I would say is that Area Committee 6, we don't have very much funding in still, so I would really welcome any other funding that can go towards road safety in future. But yeah, it's not so much a question. Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of an answer anyway. We have put money aside for better road safety, and we are what it says in here is there's no collision, so no money. We are working through David Wilcox on a new road safety strategy. I think if something becomes incredibly intimidating, then people can't walk along it, and then you say there's no crashes. It's not really the best way to organise road safety. So I do think we need to make sure that our strategy, new strategy, is able to cope with that. Obviously, funding will always be difficult, and I'm really looking forward to working with Becca on the Transforming City Regions funding to see whether or not, whether through this or whether through some sort of extra funding for East Bristol Liverpool neighbourhood, things like this that have resulted could be funded. But that's something that we haven't really started those detailed discussions yet with Becca, I'm afraid to say.
Thank you. So Councillor Blake isn't here, so we'll move on to Lib Dem question 6 on the city centre mural. And that's from Councillor Classic to Councillor Brown. 1 supplementary, please.
Thank you very much for the answer to this. I just wanted to ask for a bit more information on the next step of the area of the whole, so for things like the planting and the lighting. Are you able to give any more details about that?
Yes, thank you. So the planting scheme is being finalised, so there'll be planting that will reflect the triangular trade that Bristol used to be a beneficiary of and is in keeping with the theme of the mural. So that is being finalised, and there's also lighting, improvements to the lighting, which due to a supply issue will be done early next year.
Thank you. Councillor Udin isn't here, so we'll move on to Councillor Stone's question on the truth about library closures. And you've got 1 supplementary, Councillor Williams. Please, Councillor Stone.
Okay, right. Well, thanks very much for your answer. It was great. I really enjoyed it. However, to be honest with you, I really want you to make it very clear to people in the chamber and the people and the public exactly what's happening with libraries. The library strategy was approved by the Public Health and Communities Committee. I want you to make sure that people know in the chamber that it does not include any plans to close libraries and that there is no requirement for savings and budget cuts to the library services. That's what was approved, and a yes/no answer would be great. Thanks very much.
It's interesting, Deputy Lord Mayor, whenever anyone says a yes/no answer will suffice, it's not really a way you can answer a multi-layered question, so forgive me if I don't give a yes/no answer. Councillor Stone mentioned that the Public Health and Communities Committee has passed the first stage of the library strategy, which is effectively a vision for what we want the library's service to look like in the future. A very important decision was made by the chairs in advance of the budget setting in February next year, that the library's budget will be protected in full. And I'll just reiterate what I said at committee and what I said at the last full council when the Labour leader had his petition motion. That is probably the first time that has happened, probably for a decade. So that's a major step forward, and it does give us freedom of manoeuvre to redesign the service so it better serves the public going forward. So the provision of the service may change, but at this stage, it is premature to say whether the service will be delivered from exactly the same locations. We might have a better service co-located with another community service. I don't want a straitjacket around either myself, my colleagues, or the officers as we redesign the service. But the budget is protected, and the intention is to have the best library service of any core city in the country.
Thanks very much. That was very much cleared it up. Thanks very much.
Labour question 7 on London Coast Road. Councillor Surf, you've got one supplementary for Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Parsons, for your reply. Bristol City Council officers have said that the Landercost encampment is an unauthorised site. Indeed, on the 21st of March, one of them said, "Please may I offer my reassurance that this site has been treated in the same manner as all other unauthorised encampments across the city, although perhaps not the same as the Downs." My follow-up might be more appropriate for the Deputy Leader. It is, the draft 26-27 budget includes a review of day centres. In council speak, review is often a euphemism for closure. This seems a bit coincidental, so can you confirm that the day centre on Landercost Road is not being considered for closure? If a day centre is set to be closed, in part because of a meanwhile site being set up next door, Southmead residents would not be particularly happy about this.
Councillor Mack, did you want to respond to that supplementary?
I'm afraid I'm just going to have to respond saying I don't have the details of what's happening there, but certainly a meanwhile site we wouldn't put a meanwhile site that would then result in the closure of a facility. Obviously, as it's in this answer, the location is being considered in terms of all sensitivities around there, but it wouldn't be that the meanwhile site would result in the closure of something else. That's not a decision we'll be making.
Okay. Lib Dem question 7 on funding for children's play parks. Councillor Brown, you've got one supplementary for Councillor Williams.
No supplementary, Deputy Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. So Conservative question 7, homelessness and rough sleeping. Oh, Councillor Morris is here, is he? No. Okay, we'll move on then. So Green question 8, antisocial busking from Councillor Ralston. Is Councillor Ralston here? No. Okay. So let's move on to Labour question 8 on the EBLN. Councillor Renard, you've got one supplementary for Councillor Plowden, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Plowden, for the answer, which you eventually got to answering the questions. They're quite comprehensive. Just reflecting on the 3 AM operation, this question is to both Councillors Mack and Plowden as they're named in the response. Do you stand by your decision to support the 3 AM operation? And if not, would you like to take this opportunity to apologise to the public for what happened?
I do stand by the decision to commence an operation at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is when it started. And I note that the police have apologised for... I wasn't given any operational details of that operation, and I note that the police have subsequently apologised for that operation.
Lib Dem question 8 on SEN spending. Councillor Williams, you've got one supplementary for Councillor Townsend. Sorry.
My Lord Mayor, I think Councillor Mack wanted to say something on the back of that.
You weren't going to let me miss my opportunity. So as per the precise details of your answer was that we were aware of the early morning operation, not the police operational details, given the situation that we were in with the protests and obviously the feeling of the community following an engagement process that was done under Labour, which was incredibly difficult. I guess I want to support Ed in saying, yes, I do stand by an early morning operation was the way of implementing the scheme. But as we've pointed out, we didn't have the details of that operation, just the plan of doing it early before traffic in the morning.
Okay, Councillor Williams, please, your supplementary to Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Thank Christine for her comprehensive answer. Of course, the funding of adult social care and the funding of children with special educational needs is a major budgetary pressure on all local authorities. And on the face of it, what was announced on the budget for central government taking over the funding of SEND from 2028 is welcome. We need to see the detail, but in between now and then, and indeed cumulatively so far, huge amounts of money have built up in terms of a deficit on the safety valve. What does she think the government should do to help not only Bristol but other local authorities who have still that significant budgetary pressure for the next 4.5 years?
I think that's a key question. I think the government, the DFE, if they say we'll pay it off, their fear is that local authorities will just spend and the deficit therefore increases over the next 4 years. We are expecting something coming before Christmas to give us some kind of indication as to what might happen to that deficit. At the moment is anticipated to be 14 billion by March 2028. Whether it will be 14 billion by then or more, and it's anyone's guess really. It will depend on the reforms that are now delayed for a second time that we're supposed to hear in the new year, and what impact that might have to mean that spend is brought down because inclusion within the mainstream is improved. I am looking very closely at what that safety valve contract specifically says, because my fear is that the DFE will say, take it from your schools block, and that would be catastrophic. Thanks. That's all I can say.
Okay, Councillor Wells isn't here, I believe, so we'll move on to Labour question 9 on Claremont School. Councillor Hornby, you've got 2 supplementaries to Councillor Townsend, please.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Yes, Councillor Townsend, thank you for the answer for that question, and could you reassure us that possibly we could get a named project manager for the project, because we seem to be bedeviled in capital projects where they constantly get delayed because of the interdepartmental connections and planning offices and whatever has to go apart. So could we make sure that this gets progress, because the children are not functioning very well as the Wales school is going on at the moment?
Well, there is a named project manager, and CYP committee has asked for a capital update, and that's literally just been put into your diary, that date, for the capital projects update for all of the capital spends. What's difficult with Claremont is that we have the decant and the rebuild that needs to go on simultaneously, and that meant the capital needed to be available to do both of those things before it could start. And it is for that reason that it wasn't progressed under the previous administration. But we're now in a position where that capital has been secured and we are able to move forward with that project.
Second one. Does that mean you'll be foreseeing that the decant would happen possibly by September 26 intake?
That depends on how quickly we can get the decanting furniture that would be needed outside of control of the CYP committee. It would depend on where and how the DFE is able to provide what is very specialist accommodation on a temporary basis. So no is the answer, but we may have an update by the time we get our capital. We have our capital meeting.
Okay, Green question 10 on place efficiency in city centre play areas. Councillor Bry, you've got 2 supplementaries for Councillor Williams, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I don't think I've got any supplementary questions. Thank you for the answers, Stephen.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to Labour question 10, adult social care providers. Councillor Rippington to Councillor Francis. You've got 2 supplementaries, please.
Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. I'm just wondering if you can guarantee that I get my question in, whether Councillor Clark would now like to ask a question.
I was going to come to that next, actually. Thank you very much, Tim.
Do you want me to go first then?
If you answer your yes, if you ask your supplementaries, and then Councillor Francis, you missed an earlier question from Councillor Clark, so if you can then answer that one afterwards. But if we go to Councillor Rippington first.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the response. In the words of the chair of the audit committee, the report I referenced was very concerning indeed. So I'm also very concerned that we're not taking this issue quite seriously enough. With the massive amount of council spend on adult social services, we have an obligation to know whether the companies we're contracting with are meeting the required standards, and we can't possibly know that with the current levels of resource dedicated to monitoring and checking over 500 private care providers. Many of those who receive care are also unable to respond about the level of care they receive, so satisfaction rates taken by them can be very misleading. In the vast majority of cases, we do not know for sure whether we're getting value for money. We don't know if the levels of care being provided meet the standards laid out in the contract or if the contracted hours are actually being delivered. So my question is, the response to the audit report was woolly at best. So I'll ask again, what are we going to do to improve the current situation? Thanks.
Right, without me even looking at the answer to the question, we are looking constantly at services. The CQC monitors care homes in general, so, you know, and we have sessions where we monitor our provisions. I was torn between your question, the original question, which was answered by officers because they are the people that are delivering the work. I'm a chair of a committee. And I was struck between the question weaving between care providers, i.e. commissioned services who provide home care or a service, versus provisions of care, so whether it is supported accommodation or other. So I was sort of swinging between those two questions in the same question from yourself. So the 500 referred to is based upon provided work with that amount of orders. Now the challenges around the single framework is being looked at as we speak, because from the moment I saw it, I was concerned about the process. So 500, unfortunately, 500 providers are not providing care to our residents. There is probably, or I want to say 10, maybe a bit more, but we can be a bit more specific. Nowhere near 50, nowhere near 40. So unfortunately, we have a lot of providers who are not able to access, provide care to our residents. So at this time, we are not monitoring 500 carers, but they've been through a rigorous process of assessment. So it's kind of like, even though we are not using them, they have been assessed, they've been reviewed, because they had to go through monitoring in order to get onto the single framework. So a little bit of a convoluted response, but I can assure you that my background allows me to be really robust in monitoring and making sure I'm asking the right question. So as far as I'm concerned, we are not running a kind of unregulated service. There are a lot of steps that one has to go through in order to deliver care to our residents, but we are not looking at 500. I hope that reassures you, because I can understand why that would be a concern.
Yeah, thank you. The 500 figure was very concerning, and that does make sense. Do you think that it's still the case that we don't know what our providers are doing a lot of the time? And I do think we can improve on that and have to, certainly in terms of level of care and whether the people that they're employing are trained to the sufficient standard. I know that it's not the case sometimes, so that's particularly what I'm worried about. But the 500 is, that explanation makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, for your patience and consideration, because I understand where you're coming from. Thank you.
Am I on? I am. Okay, so we'll go back to Lib Dem question 1 at the start of today's member forum meeting. And this was a question on winter pressures and immunisations. Councillor Clark, would you like to ask Councillor Francis your supplementary, please?
Thank you both to the Deputy Lord Mayor for letting me do it, and thank you very much to Councillor Rippington for suggesting it. Appreciate it. Bristol is likely to experience a number of critical incident alerts in our hospitals with flu season. What is adult social care doing to protect our vulnerable adults and children?
So so you've had a response to your question. So is that a follow-up to the response that you've had? As in, is it a follow-up question to the question you've had? Is that correct? Sorry. Apologies for being late because I was coming from somewhere else.
You've asked a different question, haven't you, Councillor Clark?
So I'm just querying if it's a follow-up question to the answer. Okay, right. Well, I was just being clear because I know that you had a comprehensive response from the DAS. So when you say, what are you doing to protect vulnerable people? We are as detailed in the response. There is a real rigorous process before anybody is just... So again, if we're talking about hospitals, hospital discharges, that's one thing. If we are talking about vulnerable people within our community in general, that would be a different response. So that was why, Councillor Clark, I was just asking you to clarify. So in regards to hospital discharge, there is a pathway, and there are social workers based in hospitals. So anybody that's in hospital has 3 pathways out of hospital. So I trust that process in relation to, we are not going to put people back home wherever possible without the wraparound care that they need. So that was what I'm just asking you to clarify, because you had a robust answer. So we are doing, all I can say on behalf of the service, we have hard-working social workers, social assistants, OTs, who do everything they can, plus all of our providers as well, to ensure that residents are safe in their homes. If that's not a good enough response, I'm happy to continue the discussion with you in public, in committee or elsewhere. That was my response to your question.
Thank you very much. So Labour question 12 on City Hall lights from Councillor Alexander. On supplementary to Councillor Mack.
Nothing from me. Thanks, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to Green question 13, the East Street Waste Enforcement. That's from Councillor Townend. One supplementary to Councillor Foden, please.
So in the answer then, it would be a year since we were told as councillors that this project would start. What sort of...
The main high streets and the city centre originally are being improved by making the presentation of waste using a plan that offers from our client neighbourhood enforcement team. And they're going around each site talking to businesses, persuading waste companies to offer a better service that meets the presentation standard for putting out waste, not leaving bins waste on the streets. It will improve it. Each time, unfortunately, it has taken longer than anticipated. One of the reasons is, once it's in place, there have to be return visits sometimes. So, for instance, we were really delighted with the improvements on Gloucester Road. Bins started reappearing, companies started putting them out for new contracts. The officers have to go back, visit the existing locations and say, no, there is a presentation standard. You should know this, you should know this. Having removed bins that have kind of reappeared. It will improve. Unfortunately, it has slipped ever since it started about 4 or 5 years ago. I'm really sorry it's taking longer. There will be improvements when it gets to East Street, and officers will be willing to be persuaded to discuss any concerns and talk to the companies that are meant to be providing them with an appropriate service that doesn't increase the number of rats or the litter and the clutter on the pavements. They're trying to improve that presentation, and it will improve the situation. I'm just sorry it's taking longer each time. The team is smaller than it used to be. Unfortunately, that's the impact of austerity on enforcement.
Thank you. Green question 14, Light Ashton Bridge again, and you've got one supplementary to Councillor Blackburn.
So thank you for the answer. What we're talking about is probably about 15 cars Councillor Clark, who is a member of our Area 7 committee, did put a seal in. It wasn't accepted. We don't know how much seal we'll be getting next year. This is a dark route that is the official sort of diversion for the bridge. It needs to be lit. People won't use it. Women won't use it and young people won't use it. Our young people are telling us that the dark ways of walking are making them feel unsafe. Are you going to prioritise this?
If you'd like to revisit the decision not to support cats, then I would certainly take that away and look at it, because what about the particular location? Because the city, obviously, when they shed their limbs, so it doesn't mean that the cat size gets judged very well. But I think it's if you're saying that will make a big difference to the situation whilst Vauxhall Bridge is closed, then I think that we do have a duty to think about that. And I think that's probably would be relatively inexpensive. I think it's fair to say that if we were going to find hundreds of thousands of pounds to upgrade lighting, and I think the rest of the chamber would expect us to have a process for prioritising where that's going to make the most impact.
You're being asked to replace cat's eyes. That's what you've been asked to replace.
I'm going to take that away and revisit that decision.
Okay, Labour question 14 on transport investment plan. One supplementary, Councillor Cloud, please.
Thank you for your reply, Ed. The draft budget for 26-27 included a hike in cash charges as part of the revenue needed to get a balanced budget. How do you plan to make up for that now the Environment Committee have rejected that proposal?
I think what the Environment Committee, as I understand it, was the modelling. This would generally have the effect that we expected to have. So we will be providing modelling and seeing what the impact of that would be. In terms of a balanced budget, I think the budget at the moment is 537 million, and we're talking about a couple of 100,000. So obviously we'll have to look back at our own budgets, which you have a duty to help with, because we're responsible for balanced budgets. So I can't tell you the mitigations we'll put, but we'll have enough levers that we can bring to committee and try and get agreed. But I'd certainly hope that the modelling would demonstrate and make the case that this is something that's actually going to improve our air quality and the health of our city.
Okay, depending on the length of the next answer, this might be the last question. So the next one then is Labour question 15 down. That's Councillor Peat. You've got one supplementary for Councillor Williams.
Thank you. So the response says that the council received a complaint on the 19th of October 2025, except we have received a pre-action letter of enforcement, which states that the complaint was made first in September regarding a lack of progress following an issue that was reported in July 2025. So I suppose my question is it possible that we can follow up to make sure that, you know, we have a full backlog and of the complaints and that they are properly recorded?
Well, I'll look at that. But it is important to say that both I, as a ward councillor, Councillor Parsons, myself, committee chairs, have received multiple complaints about vehicle dwellers across the city. It's really difficult for us to look into every single one of them. Particularly, there was an issue on the Downs itself, which is the subject of the question, about people conflating the practices of traditional Gypsy Roma traveller, people who are camping out on the grass at different points throughout the summer, who, can't believe we're talking about this, Lord Mayor, do defecate on the grass rather than in their vehicles, and the practices of vehicle dwellers parked on the highway. What we have needed in every single case where we've assessed a site as high impact, either because of criminal activity or public health nuisance, is specific evidence of the site and traceability to a particular caravan or a group of caravans, and then action has been taken, as it is at the moment on the Downs, and as it has been taken, for instance, in the area around IKEA. So lots of evictions and towing-aways and legal enforcement notices have been issued, but this is an ongoing process with about 800 to 900 people living in vehicles across the city. It's an incredibly difficult task for us and our officers. I will say, as the question is about kindness, the administration took on a really difficult situation. It was her party leader and others who were in cabinet the previous 4 or 6 years when the problem built up, left us with a really difficult situation to address.
Thank you very much. So that concludes...
Do I get a second supplementary?
You had only one supplementary time, and that concludes member forum and also this meeting. We'll be back in the chamber at 2 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.